Hi, this is Marcia.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Marcia.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, probably better than you guys up in Seattle with all that smoke.
Yes, it's terrible. There's my understanding there's a fire in eastern Washington, just east of the Cascade Mountains near Cle Elum.
Oh, wow.
I think there's actually more fires than that, I think, but that's the one that they've been talking about. I posted a picture on Instagram at noon. The sun, it looked almost like sunset, you know, that color of orange kind of. And so yesterday I got up in the morning and I went out to get in the car and it had a layer, well, I can't say a layer, but it had dust all over the car, or not dust, but ash all over the car. And I have like a tablecloth out on the picnic table that I had left out overnight, and it had little black specks all over it of ash.
Oh, wow.
And you could actually, the fires that we had, or the smoke that we had a couple weeks ago that was coming down from British Columbia, we didn't have the ash. We just, I mean, maybe it was there, but it was so small you didn't see it. This one, you actually could see the ash blowing in the air like snow, kind of.
Wow.
Very fine flakes of snow, kind of. I don't know if it's the smoke, but I did not feel good yesterday at all. I had worked cleaning at my mom's house on Sunday and Monday, and it was really hot, too. Very hot and humid and no air movement. And I got really hot both days. And so it could have been just I kind of overextended myself working. But then also the air quality is so bad that yesterday I went to my music lessons, and then I think I went to the grocery store, and I came home, and I actually just laid down on the bed for about 3 hours and slept because I just felt so terrible.
Yeah.
And even today, I don't feel good, and I feel kind of congested.
Yeah,
or something.
I'm sure it has to do with the air quality.
Headachy, and
Yeah.
So I've been inside today, and it's hot, and as I say, there's no air movement at all. I did rally though. Because I can rally for knitting, and I have the group that we went over to Suncadia in March. They get together, and so I went last night to one of the women's houses for knitting, and I did rally to get over to her house. But the smoke is even worse at her house because where my house is, I'm on that bluff above Puget Sound, so there is a little bit more air coming just because you're near the water. Where she's over closer to Lake Washington, and there just wasn't any air movement at all. And you could see, Seattle's a series of hills, and you could see the smoke has just settled inside of the valleys, kind of.
Yeah.
I say valleys; they're not really valleys, but the low points of the city. The smoke has just all settled down in there.
All the smoke is just hanging in those areas. Oh, that's too bad.
I know. I should. I'm. My heart goes out to all the people in eastern Washington who I think they're evacuating, and people, I'm sure, are probably losing property. But on a completely selfish level, I can hardly wait for rain. I want a really good rain just to clear the air and everything's. And then because we haven't had rain for months now.
Yeah.
And,
on the other hand, we have people in Houston with too much rain, and now a new hurricane, Irma, coming. It's just it's hard to imagine what people are going through. But you're right. I mean, your heart just does kind of go out to them, like And I know we have listeners in Houston, in the area, and in Louisiana, who were affected, and I don't know if we have any listeners in the areas that are going to be affected maybe by Irma, but what would that be, like the south part of Florida?
Yes, I heard on I think it was on NPR, they were talking about the Keys. Is it Key West? I'm not that familiar with Florida, but they're asking people to evacuate, to leave.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I have nothing to complain about. I realize.
No, neither of us do.
No, I know.
Well, but
anyway.
And on a lighter note, you had some other knitting that you rallied for, right?
Yes. I think in the last episode we talked about that Sarah and Aaliyah, the grandnieces of my friend Crystal, they'd come a couple weeks ago. We dyed yarn, and then they were going to come back and learn to knit. So they came on Saturday, and Crystal came with them, and so because she had dyed yarn too. So all three came over on Saturday and learned to knit. And it was actually a pretty fun day. I learned a lot. The first thing I learned, and Kelly, you will appreciate this, and all the teachers out there who are listeners will appreciate this. I've always appreciated teachers, but oh my gosh, my appreciation has increased 100-fold because I had two children with completely different learning styles. Imagine having a classroom of 24 or 30 or more students with 24, 30 plus different learning styles. Yeah. So it was, and I the other thing too is I had a boy and I had one child. And I learned a lot, too, about girls, and I learned a lot about siblings. That siblings can be kind of mean to one another. But anyway, it was actually a really fun day, and they got pretty good. And I should also say, too, I got a lot of input from listeners about what kind of project to do with the kids. My thought was I was just going to do a scarf, just a garter stitch scarf, which is what I ended up doing. And I think that really was the best thing, given the fact that they did have such very different learning styles. And Sarah picked it up pretty quickly. Aaliyah had a more challenging time. What I learned is, as an adult, there's words we use that we think everybody knows, but an 8-year-old doesn't know. For example, insert the needle through the loop. What's insert mean? I didn't know that children don't necessarily know what the word insert is. I didn't realize that she was not 100% clear on what front and back was, or left or right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would say to her, you want to insert the needle, first mistake, into the front of the needle. That made no sense to her, because what's insert mean? What's front mean? And then I finally, was showing her how the yarn, wraps a stitch, and then, the yarn wraps around the needle, and there's like the front part of it, and I was showing her in the back part, and then there's the left and the right. That was a very difficult concept for her to understand. I couldn't figure out, I'm not a teacher, and I have no background in teaching, so I felt really bad that I couldn't help her understand. Yeah. And I think part of it, too, was it was difficult because her sister caught on so quickly, or fairly quickly. I think that made it harder. Right,
yeah, with that competition between them.
So I think what I'm going to do, if they've started school now, I may ask, see if Aaliyah just wants to come on her own. Yeah. Just one-on-one, it might be better. But I decided just to do a garter stitch. So I cast on stitches and then show them how to knit. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if Aaliyah would like to come back and just work on her own with me and see if she can get it.
Yeah.
And, understand it. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. And then when they understand both of it, then I'll bring them separately to learn how to purl. But I got feedback from people about what projects to do, like a hat or a cowl in the round, that kind of thing. I decided it was too much. In fact, I even thought a good pattern to make would be like the pussy hat, because it's just ribbing, then it's all stockinette and then ribbing, and then you just sew it up. Yeah. But they didn't want hats. Excuse me, I've been coughing. So I decided, and then what are other ideas? There was a lot of really good ideas. One thing is just to make us like a rectangle and then sew it up on the sides to make like a little bag that they could put treasures in. That was a good idea, but we didn't even get that far. I think they knit about, maybe 2 inches or so. Right. And then they took it home, and Crystal texted me the next day that they had stayed up till 10:30 at night knitting. Fun. So I've created something.
Well, and she always thought your knitting was boring, right?
Yeah, she thought it was boring.
So now she has more of a reason to do it because the girls are doing it.
Yeah, and she said to me that Saturday that how it was actually kind of relaxing and sort of mesmerizing. Because the thing that she's been doing to kind of relax at night is she has those adult coloring books, you know. They did a ski trip to Utah, I know, and she brought the coloring books in the car, and then at night, you know, in the motel room, she was, you know, drawing. So she said she found this to be really relaxing. So
well, that's good.
I might have a convert.
Yeah.
So anyway, I will have them back, though, after... I'm going to give them a couple weeks to
give yourself a couple weeks.
Yeah, give myself a couple weeks. I have to say, it was exhausting. It really... I mean, because I don't know how to describe, like, it was really fun. But when they left, even though I was going out to a party, they left, and I lay down on the bed and I drank a beer. And I thought, God, I wonder how many teachers before they even leave their classroom.
we have a beer in our cabinet, you know, little scotch in the drawer.
That's why it's a teacher's lounge, right? Yeah, it's like, I mean, I really do, like, hats off to teachers. I don't know how you do it. But I think it's a certain personality, I think, as a teacher. You know, there's and Kelly, you have, and we've talked about this before, that I mean, I don't know how big your classes are, but say there's 20 students or something, you really have 20 different learning styles, right?
Well,
but you
also people at all different levels, even though they're all in the same class, and supposedly they have learned enough math to be ready for that class. The reality of it is that they're all at different levels.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But they're adults.
Yes, they are.
So they can handle better frustration, probably.
Right. They don't throw themselves on the floor and cry. That's true. Yeah. But I think some of them, it is interesting teaching adults. You realize that everyone finds frustration in learning, regardless of age. Some people cope with frustration well, and other people don't, regardless of age. You know, the behaviors might be different because of their age, but there are people who are doing the adult version of throwing themselves on the floor and screaming. In every class, yeah. And not just the classes I teach. I mean, the classes that I've taken, like I've been in spinning classes and dyeing classes, and I've taken a couple of felting classes, and I don't think I've had the short knitting classes, the market classes at Stitches that are only like 45 minutes. And actually, it's interesting because the same dynamic is happening there too, even though they're learning something that they want to learn and that is fun and it's your hobby. It's all exactly the same behaviors as people who are in my class trying to learn math, whether they like math or don't like math. And that I found to be that was a surprise to me. Because to me, if you're in a class because it's something you want to learn, you would think that there would be a whole different mindset. That doesn't seem to be necessarily the case. People bring all of their baggage about learning into whatever class they're taking. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you add the component of not really wanting to learn, as a kid, not really wanting to learn the subject. Now, I think they both wanted to learn how to knit, clearly, but, Ben, he didn't want to learn the multiplication table. Oh, my goodness. What we went through, you have to memorize the multiplication table. And, he did not want to do it. I have to say about Ben, though, about patience and about learning things and getting upset, what always impresses me about him when he's trying to figure something out, I'm the kind of person who would get mad and throw the hammer. He's the kind of person that goes, I don't know how to do this. He'll set the hammer down and then go in and watch a YouTube video to figure out how to do it. Yeah. We have very different styles. He's so calm and patient. And he does get frustrated, but it doesn't manifest itself in the way that it normally manifests. It manifests itself in me, Not proud of that, but it's the truth. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Marcia, thrown your knitting anytime recently?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about my knitting too, because I did have some frustration in one of my projects that I started, but overall, I just have to say about knitting with the kids, it actually was really it was fun. It really ultimately was fun, and I was glad I was able to share it with them. But it was a little challenging because of just, siblings and kids,
and an
me not
age
really
difference.
knowing how to teach.
An age difference, too. Yeah.
And I think the fact that they spend all the time together. They go to the same school. Sometimes they're in the same class, depending on, how it's configured. They go to after school together. They were in summer school together. I think they're sick of each other. That's what happens.
Right.
Anyway, projects.
Yes.
So, anything finished?
I do. Yes, I have.
I'm very excited. Well, I don't know which one you're going to talk about first, but I'm very excited about. Well, actually, all of them. So for many reasons.
I'll talk about the least exciting first. The least exciting is still nice. I finished the Wolkig cowl that is the Martina Bain pattern. It's the cowl with, it's only one row. I mean, the row is the same over and over and over in the round, but it makes a really interesting fabric. And I used a yak silk yarn that I had spun that's really shiny, and it came out really pretty. I'm really pleased with it. So
I love that cowl. I think it's very it's so it's kind of modern looking too. It has a sort of architectural, structural look to it.
Yeah,
kind of, with
there's purl stitches, so reverse stockinette, but because of the biasing that you do with decreases and increases, that reverse stockinette section swirls around the cowl. And then I'm not sure why this happens, but the regular stockinette portion that's in between that swirling part, then it has sort of a ruching effect. And it's not because you do anything special to get that. It's just the way that swirling of reverse stockinette goes. It causes the folds and sort of gathering of the rest of it to fit into the space. And so it has all these kind of ripples going down. Anyway, I think it's really pretty, and I think it's a great combination of pattern and yarn. And so I'm so glad that I saw Joanne Carroll's version, Joanne, from the Santa Cruz Knitting Guild. I'm so glad that I saw her version because it really was a perfect pattern for this. And I think it would be a good pattern for any hand spun. Oh, which reminds me, by the way, I put up a bundle in our group that is patterns that are good for hand spun. And I put this one in there, and I put in a couple of others. I know we have some new spinners in the group, and other people who just might like having patterns for hand spun. So it's open for anybody in the group to add patterns to the bundle, just like with the poncho bundle. And I put this one into that bundle because I thought it would be a really good one. You can go as long as you want. Once you know how many to cast on from the pattern, you just can go until your yarn's gone. And I think it would look good regardless of the type of yarn that you use. And it would look good with the variegated yarn because of the way it would break up the variegation and so on. And
do you think that the pattern would be adaptable for different weights of yarn?
Yeah, I do think so. You would probably, if you wanted to make sure that you had a cowl that fit the way the one in the pattern does, you would want to swatch and see, how many stitches you would need to cast on to get the number of inches that the cowl is around. And I forget how big it is around, but it's not very big. It's more like not quite like a neck gaiter, but just a one time around and sort of close fitting. Not tight, but it's not falling and drooping and not going around your neck. So it kind of stays up around your neck. I think you could use different weights of yarn very easily. With this, you just have to adjust the number you cast on to make sure it fit around your neck or that it wasn't bigger than you wanted.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second and just ask you a question about hand spun. so I don't forget. Okay. And we'll get back to your projects. But I spun Targhee. I had Targhee roving, and I spun it. And here's a weird thing about spinning. All the single fit on the bobbin, right? Uh-huh. But then when I went and I wound it into a ball and pulled from the center and from the outside and plied it back onto the bobbin, and it wouldn't fit. I had to use, it filled the bobbin, and then it filled a half of another bobbin. Why is that? Air? Does it slightly untwist as it, because you're spinning the opposite direction, plying, and it makes it. Why is that? Okay,
so air is one part of it, but also geometry. So when it's just one strand, they can pack together more closely. And then once you twist it, it's sort of bumpy, right? The edge is sort of bumpy, and they don't fit together as well. It's kind of like...
Is it like when you're packing for a trip, if you fold your clothes, you can get more in the suitcase than if you just wad them up and shove them in?
Yes. Exactly like that. Okay. Why do your dirty clothes take up more space? Not because the dirt made them bigger. But because they're all wadded up in a bag. Yeah, it's the geometry of the yarn.
Okay. All right.
But also it also could be some air too. When you ply it, it does untwist a little, and there's a little. It makes it can, depending on how much you ply it, make it more puffy and loose. Mm-hmm. So both of those things are a little bit true.
Okay. All right. Sorry. That was a segue. Okay, that's back to projects. Yes.
So now I have my two most exciting finished projects. Mm-hmm. And so my second most exciting project is really not my project. It's Robert's project. But we have all working toilets in our house.
Yay! Hallelujah.
Yes. All the toilets are working. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not, or if I might have texted you at some point. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but at one point when we only had one working toilet in our part of the house, I came home from work and I went in to use the bathroom, and I went to flush it, and the flushing handle had broken off of the inside. So the flushing handle just spun around. So then I had to take the top off the tank and lift the thing to actually flush the toilet. And I was like, holy cow. Seriously. The one working toilet in our house now has a broken flush handle.
Oh, okay. So it was the last working toilet that was doing this. Okay.
Yes. I thought, what the heck? Why is this happening? So anyway, but now they all work. We have a new one in the guest bathroom, which is where we're staying right now. We have the temporary installation in the purple bathroom, so that's good. And the one downstairs got fixed, so now the handle isn't broken, and you don't have to take off the back of the tank to flush it. So yay for working toilets.
You're cursed with toilets down there for some things going on.
Again,
so that's exciting.
It's... Talk about your first world problems.
Yes, right.
We only had one working toilet as opposed to 3, but even then, so that's important. Yeah. But I guess I can't count that as my finished project. But I wanted to update people. And then my most important, most exciting finished project of all is the octopus is done.
Yay! Oh, and he's so cute.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so much fun to play with, it looks like, too.
I love this octopus. The pattern is Opus the Octopus. It's a pattern that was on Knitty, the online magazine Knitty. It's by Cate Carter-Evans, who actually is the woman who owns Infinite Twist, which is a yarn shop in, I want to say it's in China. And she has women working for her who spin the yarn, so she sells hand spun and then also dyed. And anyway, you can get a kit for the octopus. That's not what I did. I actually dyed my own yarn for him. I'm so happy with how he turned out. Oh my gosh. It's the most incredible thing I've made ever, I think.
Well, I just first of all, he's very expressive, considering he doesn't have like they don't have a mouth on their head, just the two eyes. But I think he's quite expressive, and then the sheer size.
Yeah, too. Life size. This octopus is life size, and the way you stuff it, it's floppy like an octopus. Like I think of an octopus as being. I've never held an octopus, but they look quite floppy. And so fun to pose around the house, like putting the tentacles like they're just like creeping up on something or spilling out of something, So that's been kind of fun to pose him around the house. Like we did that with the hippo when I made that hippo with the granny squares. I would come home and the hippo would be in a new location. But it's even more fun with the octopus because he has all those moving tentacles that you can position in different places. So
you'll he's going to have his own Instagram account.
Oh, that would be funny. Oh my gosh. So yeah, those are my two finished projects. I've got the octopus and the cowl. And we have working towards.
So somebody asked me, "Are you making that?" Because he's Orson, right? Did you call him Orson?
Mine is called Orson. Yeah.
Orson. Are you going to give him away? And I said, I don't think so.
No.
I think she's too in love with Orson to give him away.
No, Orson is mine. At some point, I might, but right now the grandniece and grandnephew are too young to really appreciate him as much as I do.
Well, and you would lose all the fun too opposing him.
Yeah, he's mine.
Yeah. Very cute. Yeah, the pictures are cute of him. So I'm looking forward to more Instagram posts of Orson the octopus.
Well, I think I'm going to bring him to my office at work, so that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be fun. The students would probably love that. Well, and so what else are you got going?
So I'm currently working on the Summer Fjord tee, the one in linen, and I'm knitting on it right now. I'm about 8 inches from the armholes. So I'm in the second repeat. Oh no, I'm starting. Yeah, I'm in the second repeat. I'm just finishing the second repeat of the pattern. So this is making good progress. And then I've been doing a lot of spinning because we had our county fair, and the spinners are in the wool room spinning through the whole fair, and so I was there. And so I finished, I guess, well, I won't count it as a finished object, but I finished up all of the gray Charlotte fleece that I have is all spun. And I thought I had spun all of the CVM, but I found a bump of it.
Oh, okay.
Still, so I have only a little bit of that to spin into bulky. Okay. But I was finishing up things, and then I had some Corriedale that was left over from when I spun the yarn for my mom's vest. I spun all of that up. And I spun this all bulky on the Salish spinner, so the Indian head spinner. So I haven't been doing a lot of knitting, but, since I finished the octopus, I haven't been doing a lot of knitting, but a little bit, and a lot of spinning.
Yeah.
So, what about your projects?
Well, I finished a project.
Yay!
I finished the Twice Born Shawl by Magdalena Lorenz.
Oh, good.
And I just blocked it this morning. I wove in it was kind of nice. I had, because it's a black yarn and a kind of a yellowy yarn that I was using 2 yarns, so I really only had 4 ends to weave.
Oh, that is nice, yeah.
So I wove those in this morning and blocked it, and it's drying right now in the bedroom. What else? I'm still working on the shawl with the Stonehenge Fiber Mill Crazy. I am just about done. Let me look here. I have a ball about 1 inch left of the second ball, and then I'll start my third one. And this pattern it's garter stitch for a while, and then you do bands of garter stitch interspersed with stockinette. And the pattern calls for it shows 5 bands of garter stitch. I've been putting more in because I can just make it as big as I want, right? Just keep going. So my plan was just to make the pattern ridges till I finish the second ball. And then on my third ball, start doing the 2x2 ribbing that goes how it's finished. But I think but I'm going to see how it goes if I want to do. I mean, I'm just sort of making it up as I go along, so we'll see if I do that. I think, though, however, wherever I stop, I want to stop on an odd number of the garter stitch ribs or bands, I think. I think it's better to have an odd number. I don't know why I think that, but I just think that. So
I like to have odd numbers of things, too, for design.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm working on right now as we've been talking, because it's a very simple, easy pattern. I don't even need to look at the pattern anymore. I've got to memorize, so that's nice. Anyway, and I started a new project.
Ooh.
And I'm going to actually stop knitting to talk about this one because I have to concentrate. So when we went to the second year we went to the Knockers Retreat in California, my door prize was a free pattern. And Callie, I never say this right. Yohi Locatel.
Ho-he.
Ho-he.
This is exactly the
I so apologize to the designer. Ho-he.
Yes.
I would say Yohi like Y. It's Ho-he like H, right? Ho-he Locatel. Someday I'll get this. Anyway, the pattern I chose was Recoleta. Yeah, that's right. And so when we were at Stitches in February, I bought yarn at Neighborhood Fiber Company to make this sweater. And I've been trying to decide which sweater I wanted to start next, and then finally, and I couldn't make up my mind. I was doing swatches, and I just wanted to start something, so I grabbed this, and I just started it, and I cast on. Oh my, it's complicated. So it really is not that complicated now that I've started it, but it's, the sweater has like a shawl collar that's all lace, and then the back is lace, and this collar is, it comes around the neck and then goes down the front of the sweater, and you knit and that's all lace. The sleeves are stockinette. You do a provisional, start knitting with the back of the collar, and you do a provisional cast on, and you knit about, I'd say 5 inches or so, and then you pick up where the provisional cast on is, and then knit the other direction for about 5 inches. Then you go and you pick up stitches along one side of that length, so which is like, say, 10 inches. You pick up stitches, and that then is going to forms the back and the arms. Okay. So then as you're knitting along on this back piece, you now have to do the lace for the 2 collars that go down the front. You have to increase for the raglan sleeve and follow a lace along that's going to now go down the back. So it's the yoke, and then it's going to become the back.
Wow.
I understood the concept.
Right.
So but the first problem I had, and again, I have to say, it is not the pattern, it's the knitter. I've done a provisional cast on before, but it was always in stockinette. This you do the provisional cast on, but your first row of knitting is knit, purl, yarn over, knit 2 together, and slip, slip, knit. So when you pull out that provisional cast on and you have to pick up all those stitches, your knit 2s come apart.
Oh, no, okay.
Or on me they did, right? And so this row of knitting is, of the provisional, there's 36 stitches. And so it took me, I was doing this at night, and finally I thought, I have to go to bed, because it was now about 1 o'clock in the morning. I had to go to bed, and I got up the next morning, and it took me about 2 hours to figure out what I had done wrong.
Oh.
And, again, because as I say, I've only done the provisional cast on where you're just picking up knit stitches, not all this pattern. So I finally got that figured out, and I just spent 2 hours, and I picked up the stitches and knit the rest of that other section, and then picked up. But this is the other thing, too. I understand the concept of, okay, I'm now knitting the collar, then I'm increasing for the arms, now I'm knitting the back yoke, increasing for the arms, and then knitting that second collar. Do you think, as I was knitting, I could figure it out? I was thought, I don't know how many times I thought to myself, okay, I need to take a break. And part of my problem I had is even that collar section and the yoke, you're only talking, the collars are 36 stitches. The yoke starts out at 30 stitches, which is not that many. I kept losing my place in the pattern. So what I ended up doing is putting a marker every 10 stitches, and then on the chart that I was following, just drawing a line down through the chart every 10 stitches so I could match that marker up, because I kept losing my place.
Oh, wow.
And it's only going to get more complicated as the yoke gets bigger and bigger, right? So that's what I did. And then
wow.
But I could, but then I had so many markers, and I did it, one color for the right yoke or collar band that's going to go down the front, a different color for the raglan increases, a different color for the yoke and back. Right. I was so confused. I was so confused. But then I also had my marker, I had my markers in there for all of every 10 stitches too. There were so many markers, and finally I had to go and so I had the round markers on, like the round plastic markers, but then I had to take those ones that open, they're like little safety pins, and put those, add those on, I put those on the markers to mark the increases for the raglan.
Oh my gosh!
So they were really just because I was and I finally, though, 2 nights ago, I'm like, okay, now I understand it. I think I can figure this out, and now I've made pretty good progress on it. But and again, the concept is not. I totally understood the concept. It's just when I was trying to,
the execution just isn't easy.
The execution was. So this is not going to be social knitting at all. It's not going to leave my house until I wear it out of the house. But I think it's getting a lot easier now, because it's now making more sense to me what I'm doing. Yeah.
Well, my linen tee is not as complicated, but remember at the beginning I was like, I have no idea how this is going to work. I can't picture how this is going to become the neckline and the shoulders and all of that.
Yeah.
And then once I got it, now, once you get into it, it's like, it becomes a little bit more clear what it is that's happening. But I
think the other thing that just played into this is it's so hot in the house because the weather's been so hot. I couldn't think straight too.
Yeah.
I think that was part of it, and then doing it at night and you don't have the best light.
Yeah, and it's dark yarn.
Yes, it's dark yarn because it's, what is the color of this yarn? It's called Druid Hill, and it is kind of a dark gray, brownie. It's a really beautiful, I love the color.
Is it the same as the dark gray that was in my Ohm shawl? Okay, yeah. It's kind of a dark fig color. That's kind of what I thought of it as. It has some tones of like kind of warm reddish purpley. I mean, it isn't purple and it isn't red, but it has that sort of warmth to it as a gray. Yeah, it has this. Yeah. To say purple is maybe, but it has like a hint of it, kind of. Yeah, a little purple, it just kind of. Yeah. I think of figs, the dark figs, like what grow on my tree. Yeah. So anyway, that's I'm making progress now, but I did have that moment of like, if one more person talks to me while I'm doing this, I might have to kill them. I'm sure everybody's had a project like that where you're just like, okay, where am I? What am I doing? Yeah. Anyway, I'm on track now. Well, that's good. But a shout out to Hohi Locatelli for donating the pattern to the Knockers retreat, because I got the pattern. I'm really excited. That is nice. I think it's going to be a beautiful. I think it's going to be a beautiful sweater. Well, and Neighborhood Fiber Company, thinking about Neighborhood Fiber Company too, because I ended up with a gradient set from Neighborhood Fiber Company from the Knockers retreat that they had donated. So, and I like knitting with this yarn too. It's beautiful yarn. Aside from my frustrations with the pattern, I really like knitting with this yarn. In fact, I was thinking about excuses for buying more. Like what am I going to make? I think I need to go look at the Neighborhood Fiber Company website. But what I really need to do is find a pattern for my gradient set, because that will be a fun knit. Yeah.
So, Kelly, tell me about the wool auction.
Oh my gosh. It was so fun. Well, first, let me just start by saying that I had the best weekend ever. I had worked hard at school to get caught up and kind of get ahead so that I could leave early, leave right after my classes were done on Thursday and Friday both, and go out to the fair and spin. And then I was there Saturday all day spinning. That was the hottest day. That was hot that day. It was over 100 degrees in Monterey, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
And of course, nowhere has air conditioning because
you're not used to having it.
Yeah, why would we need it? We have natural air conditioning. But I was there all day on Saturday, and then Sunday I went in a little bit late because I had some stuff to do with the bees. But I was there for a few hours on Sunday, and then Monday was the auction. So much fun. So Fran came. It's Fran on Ravelry, and Janai came. I don't know if you've met Janai.
I don't think so.
I don't think you've met her. Anyway, she's a friend of Fran's that I now know, and she came for the wool judging too. And so she had her eyes on something already before she even came. And she managed to get 2 really nice fleeces. And then Fran got 5 fleeces.
Wow.
Some really nice ones. She was attracted to the Shetlands. We had Shetland was our featured breed this year in the auction, in the fleece judging. And so there were, I've said before, we don't typically have Shetlands at the fair, at least when I've been there. But this year was different because it was the featured breed, and there are some local breeders of Shetland. There's a woman in Santa Cruz, so I ended up with one of her Shetlands. So I ended up with a Shetland too. But yeah, it was great fun. We started off the first you go and you can look all around at the different fleeces, and they have a board that Patty, you met Patty from Anne's Web. She puts together a board of all of the fleeces. She washes one lock from each of the fleeces and staples it to a board so people can see what the washed locks look like. So that's where I started, was looking at those. And I'd been looking at the fleeces all week while I'd been at the fair. But I was examining those washed locks, and then once I made notes from there, I went and looked at all the raw fleeces and touched them and looked inside the bag a little more and made more notes. And yeah, it was really fun. And I had all kinds of different notes because I never know who's going to bid on something that I want, that it will get above the price that I want, or maybe that somebody's bidding on it and I don't want to bid against them. Okay, they can have it. So I have to have all kinds of backup plans. So I had I had a million notes on my auction program. But I ended up with the Shetland. So it's a dark brown Shetland with sun-bleached tips. But it's a small fleece. It's only 3.5 pounds. And then I wasn't planning to buy dark fleeces, actually. That wasn't part of my plan.
What happened?
Well, there were a couple of white ones that I didn't get, that went to other people. And I was looking for lighter colored, colored but light, like a light variegated. But those were really popular, and so I let those. The prices got a little higher than what I wanted to pay, and so then it was down to dark fleeces and the Shetland. I knew I wanted one of the Shetlands. I was kind of interested in that, but this other one, it's I don't have anything yet. Oh man, this is going for a decent price. I should get in here, get in this bidding. So it's a merino ram, and it's a Doris, and I can't say her name, so I won't even try. It starts with a W, Wola something, and her fleeces are really nice. So I got that, and then I was bidding for Marianne. Mari Knits too on Ravelry, so I was bidding for her, and she wanted a light colored, colored fleece, but light, and sort of medium color and medium weight. And so there were a couple of them, but the one I really thought would be perfect was the last fleece in the whole auction.
Oh.
So you have this dilemma, right?
Yes.
The last fleece, what if you don't get it? There's no other
and then you
choices.
You're out of chances now, right?
Right. So I had a second choice, but it came sooner. And what I decided I would do is I would bid on both of them. And if I only got one, then fine. If I got both of them, I would just double check to make sure which one I thought Marianne would like the best. And I would just have to take one for the team and keep the other one. So that's what I did. And I ended up...
So you took one for the team and you have it at this fleece now, right?
Yes. I have a silver. It's silver and it's Romney, but it's a soft Romney. Mm-hmm. Softer than what I think is the typical Romney fleece, a finer gauge than I think a typical Romney fleece is. And so it's really pretty. I've already put it out on the ground and unrolled it, looked at it, rolled it back up, put them away in the garage.
Okay, and then what's the plan for them?
Well, I don't know. I think the one I want to work on first is the variegated fleece that I got at Black Sheep. So I think these will sit for a little while.
Okay.
While I focus my attention on at least a portion of that one.
Yeah.
So, and I think I'm going to be more intentional. Like on the Shetland, I split it up into pieces when I put it back. I didn't just roll it up. I split it up into pieces and put it back in the bag. And I think I'm going to be intentional about which pieces I work with. So there's a part of it that's the finer, like on the neck. That's the finer part of it. And I think I'd like to work with that separately than the part, the part that's closer to the breech.
Right.
And is more coarse. So I'm going to be more intentional than I usually am about, which part of the fleece am I working with, as opposed to just washing the whole thing and carding the whole thing kind of all together. So at least with that fleece, I am going to be like that. I'm going to do that. So yeah,
okay.
Don't know for sure, but...
Well, it sounds like fun.
Yeah. Well, and I am thinking about some processing of at least one of the fleeces. You and I talked with Kim of Youthful Fiber in Oregon. I want to see about using her her processing too, just to see what it's like. So
yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure which. Not the variegated one that I got at Black Sheep. That one I'm doing. And the Shetland I think I'm going to do myself. Maybe a couple of the others will go off to be processed into roving and perhaps yarn. She's not spinning yarn yet. It's not listed on her website yet.
Yeah.
But I know when we talked to her, she was working on that.
Working towards that, yeah.
So, but I may have it processed into roving because I don't have, with all the spinning that I did, I really don't have much processed roving. There's some bats that I made that I actually have put some of them up in the shop from the Rambouillet and mohair. I have some of that to spin. But other than that, I really don't have a lot of already processed stuff anymore. It was great. You can't beat that auction, I think. It's a good time all around. There were not as many fleeces this year as there have been in the past. The ones that we did have were all really good quality, but the number was down. Just like at Black Sheep, the number was down because of a couple of reasons for our fair. One, of course, the weather last year was so rainy and wet that it's, would ruin fleeces for showing. I think we talked about that already when we talked about Black Sheep. But also, for some reason this year, I don't remember what it is, if anybody even told me, the deadline for entering your fleeces and entering your handcrafted items in the fair was a week earlier than normal this year. And they think maybe that threw people off. There are a few people who are regular exhibitors who just forgot. And so they think maybe that's part of it. So
was there the same auctioneer that was there last year?
No, it was a new guy, and he was really good. He was very funny, and he had never done a fleece auction before, and so when they told him that he was auctioning in 25-cent increments, I mean, he kind of was like, what? What? 25 cents? You want me to be here all day? But it worked out really well. And he was good. And for the fleeces that were higher priced and the more champion and the winners, reserve champion, all the different winning fleeces, he did not go 25 cents at a time. Unless the bidding had kind of stalled a little bit, and then he would say, well, okay, well, you won't go up to that, but what about this? Mm-hmm. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Very nice. So. Well, and the year I came down for it, do you remember? And we talked about this, I think, in the podcast, how anxious I was about the auction. There's a certain sort of, how you're talking about, the one that you wanted being at the end, and so then you have to have a plan. And I remember being kind of, am I going to? People are going to be bidding like crazy, because these things are all so desirable. I'm not going to get anything, and kind of stressed out about it and anxious and everything. And then I, realizing that they were grateful that we were there and we were buying things.
Right.
So the regulars would bid on something as soon as they saw someone else's bidding. They would like, okay, let her have it. How gracious everybody was, but it's fun and exciting.
There's something about the auction atmosphere
that adds another element to it of. Excitement or anxiety, depending on your perspective.
Right. Well, a little bit of both, yeah.
Yeah, and the sort of the element of competition, too. Are you going to get this fleece? So, yeah, it was fun. Well, maybe I'll come next year. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
You have working toilets now. I can come.
Yes, right. We're making progress.
Yeah. Well, I had a little adventure. Nothing like the wool auction though. But I got together with Kristen, later knitter, and Julie J. Chand, and we went up to Whidbey Island. Kristen lives half the year in Arizona and half the year on Whidbey Island. So we got together with her. We took the ferry over, and our first stop in Clinton, we went to Abundant Earth Fiber Mill. And had Lydia, who owns the mill, took us on a tour, and that was really fun to see what they were working on. It was really fun to see the equipment, because I'm always so amazed at these the equipment that does the carding and the spinning, and they're old. And she's one of her. I think this is the one that spins the yarn. It's old. I believe it's from the 50s. And it was one of those things that it was cheaper just to scrap it than it was to try and sell it and move it, transport it someplace. And she heard about it and said, well, I'll take it and take care of the transportation. So she got it. But otherwise it was just going to be scrapped. And so she's using that machine. And because I said to her, they look so complicated. And she said, they're really not that complicated. They just look complicated, but it's basically just belts that run these gears. And so she was showing me how it works. That was fun. The other thing that was kind of fun is that she was doing some experimenting with indigo. And she was telling me that a customer had given her a flat of indigo plants. And she asked a friend if she could plant them on her property, which she did. And she had harvested the leaves, and they were on a drying rack. And so she was now going to start experimenting with dyeing with the indigo that she had grown.
Fun.
So that sounded really fun. So it was a fun tour, and of course I had to buy something. We all bought something. I bought 2 skeins of targhee, 80% targhee, 20% silk, and 10% alpaca.
Oh, yeah.
And I was sort of wondering how it's going to knit up. And before we recorded, I was going to try and do a swatch, and I didn't get that done. But silk and alpaca are very, they don't have any spring to them, kind of. They're and so they make sort of drapey fabrics, and I was wondering how it would work with the targhee, because wools have more spring to them. And we were talking, you said targhee has a lot more spring to it than, say, like a merino.
Yeah, so it's a lot more elastic.
Yes, yeah. And so I'm kind of wondering how it's going to knit up. If it's going to be a really drapey fabric, or how, because there was a sweater pattern that I've been wanting to make I've been talking about it all this time, this cloud cover, the one that I keep talking about, and I never have the right yarn for it. And so I thought, well, this one might work, but I'll do a swatch, but I have a feeling it might have too much, as I say, boing to it. Too much spring and elasticity to it. So
and the silk and alpaca might make it drapey. I'll be interested to hear what you find out, because that combination is a
Okay, you know what? I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at my notes, and this is what they told me. 80%, just think about this, Kelly, you're a math person. 80% targi, 20% silk, and 10% alpaca. What's that add up to? 110.
Wow, Marcia, you got 110% of yarn.
So something's wrong here, and I wrote it because it didn't have a tag on it. So I said, "Can you write it down for me?" And this is what they wrote down. So it's got to be 70. It must be 70% targi or something. Yeah. I don't know. Well, anyway, it's just funny now that I'm sitting here looking at my notes, like, that doesn't add up, right?
Well, and you can tell how closely I was paying attention when you said that, because it didn't dawn on me that you said something that added up to more than 100%. I'm glad you caught that, Marcia, because I'd hate to think that a math teacher would put out an episode where that 110% yarn was totally unchallenged.
Anyway, it was fun, and then we visited 2 shops. We went to Knitty Purl, which is in Coupeville, and I bought. I'm turning around. I have to grab it. I bought a skein of Mountain Colors.
Oh yeah,
I bought it because it's what is the fiber content of this? It is merino wool. Okay, add this one up, Kelly. 53% superwash merino wool, 17% domestic wool, 17% silk, and 13% nylon. Now, really, how did they know it's 13%? That's funny. Anyway, and the colorway is called Gooseberry, and it's this, it's like lime green and a little bit of bright blue and a little bit of turquoise or aqua. Anyway, it was just such a beautiful color, and I love the feel of it, so I had to buy it. Did I need it? No. Did I want it? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So I bought that, and then we went up to Whidbey Isle Yarns and Gifts, and I did not buy any yarn there, but I did buy a vintage pin that's a poodle.
Oh, cool.
And it's so cute. And it's the traditional poodle cut that Enzo does not have. But I thought, okay, that's cute. But it was a really fun day.
That sounds fun, yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. And it was really interesting to have the tour of the mill, and it was really nice of Lydia to open it up so we could see. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, anyway, and it was just a fun day, too, spending it with Julie and Kristen.
Yeah. So, I'm jealous that I didn't get to go.
I know. You have to come
But then again, you're jealous you didn't get to come down for the wool auction with Fran and Janai and me.
But we can't always do everything, so.
True.
Yeah. So.
Well, on that note, I think maybe we're finished.
Yes, okay. All righty. We'll talk in 2 weeks.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us,
doing our part for World Fleece.